Thomas, my dear. What is that you say?
Oh, memory, where is now my youth? Who used to say that life was true?
Thomas, no! Dylan, hurry! Ma'am! Oh my God, he's dying!
Thank you. Welcome to the Afterparty. I'm your host, Matt Rice, and I have three very special guests for you that I'm very excited for you to meet. First of all, I would like to introduce the spirit of Dylan Thomas. Nice seeing you. Oh, I forgot about that. Next, I would like to introduce the spirit of Thomas Hardy.
I'm a ghost. I am very much a ghost.
And finally, I would like to introduce the spirit of Sylvia Plath. That doesn't work like that. Here.
So much. You're doing so well. I love your work.
Really?
Yes, you're on me.
Well, welcome back to the after party. We're gonna sit down and chat with our three guests, talk to them about their life story a little bit, and then at the end we will have them recite some of their work for us. So that should be pretty fun. We'll start with you, Dylan. We'll just talk about your life a little bit. Obviously, your life can affect a poet's work in many ways. So let's just see what you went through.
Well, my name is Dylan Thomas, and, well, where should I start? I was born in Swansea, Wales, October 27th, 1914.
Whoa! Did you say October 27th?
Why, yes, I did.
That's my birthday.
Really? What a
Birthday.
coincidence.
Small world, huh?
No.
That's crazy.
Hi, see, I have been left out.
Oh, no, you haven't.
You're never left out. Well, where was I? Oh, yes, Swansea, Wales. That was my childhood. Me, my mother, my father, and my much older sister. We lived in a small, semi-thatched roofed house. Thing of beauty she was. So I grew up. I had pretty good childhood, but there were just certain things that happened. For one, I loved my mother. She was quite dear to me. She coddled me like no one else ever could. I still have a thing for that. And then on I went through life. I eventually registered into the local grammar school, and I attended until I was age 16, where I eventually went on to become a journalist.
Alright, well, we can hold off there and come back to you later. How about you, Thomas?
Hello, I am Thomas Hardy, and I was born in 1840 on June the 2nd.
That's my favorite day.
Okay. I was born on June the 2nd, 1840 in Dorset, England. My father, Thomas, was a stonemason, and my mother, Jemima, she's very well read, and she's the one who educated me throughout my younger years. And we were very poor, so I struggled a lot with my lower class, and, well, I managed to go to Mr. Last's Academy for Young Gentlemen. Oh, yes. It was very nice. But my formal education had to end at age 16 because of my poor family.
I'm sorry.
That's unfortunate.
Thank you for your sympathy. Yes. I did, however, then become an apprentice for a stonemason by the name of James Hicks. Thank you, Mr. Hicks.
Alright, we'll come back to you in a bit. How about you, Sylvia?
Well, my name's Sylvia Plath, and I was born October 22nd, 27th, I'm sorry. We had the same birthday.
Yes, we did.
1932. And I was born in Boston. Boston's where I was born. And Aurelia, she
Good
was
place
my
there.
mother. God bless her. And Otto Plath, he was my father. He was actually her professor in college.
Ooh,
He's sleepy,
scandalous.
so you know, he's pretty high up there. But I wrote poetry since I was 11 years old in this book that I kept for myself. And I actually had my first publication when I was right out of high school. So, and I actually attended Smith College after my high school education.
Respectable institution.
It is, thank you.
And welcome back to the after party. If you're just joining us, we're sitting down with Dylan Thomas, Thomas Hardy, and Sylvia Plath. So you mentioned that you went to Smith College. Talk about that a little bit, and then maybe expand further.
Well, to understand my later years, you just gotta understand that when I was 8 years old, my dad actually, he passed away from diabetes complications. But he was always a really strict guy, and it's really influenced me. But at Smith, I excelled. Yeah, I attempted suicide one time, but I still graduated summa cum laude. So
That's good for you. You
Congratulations.
thank you. And I've always
did so good.
You're precious.
You are too.
Thank you.
Yes.
But I went to Cambridge because I've always had a passion for England, and I met my husband, my ex-husband, Ted Hughes. Okay.
It's all right, miss.
We had two children, Frida and Nicholas, and well, Ted, he cheated on me, even though I loved him so much, and my poetry helped me get it out, but it wasn't enough, so I slammed my head in the oven, cause it turns,
I'm so sorry.
You poor thing.
Oh, that's such a tragic tale.
Just, oh my god.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay.
So sad.
Yes.
Tragic.
It is.
Leslie, I'm sorry.
It was a big impact
I'm sorry.
on my life, and
It killed you. Yes.
right here.
And we're back. So how about you, Mr. Hardy?
Alright.
Now I've got to get this off my chest, Mr. Hardy. Thomas, can I call you Thomas? I am
no, you may.
your biggest fan. You're the greatest influencer on my work ever.
It's very
How about
touching,
that?
son.
Yes.
Thank you.
you.
It's great.
No,
I can
no,
inspire-
no. Thank you.
Me too, right?
Mr. Thomas,
Me too.
if you would.
Yes. Thank you for your enthusiasm, son. Anyway, back to my life. Okay. Well, I moved to London in 1862, and I went to King's College for my architecture, and I actually won an award there. But London, I did not like. I moved away after 5 years just because I felt so inferior due to my social class and society. But anyway, I returned home to Dorset, and in 1870 I met the lovely Emma Gifford. She was a dime, so they might say. I married her in 1874, and I loved her so much, and she was taken from me in 1912. So that greatly influenced a lot of my work. That's why I wrote.
I know.
Yes.
So
Thank you, Miss Plath.
I'm sad.
Thank you for your sympathy. But anyway, I actually retraced the steps of our courtship and wrote a series of poems entitled Poems 1912 to 1913 about her death. But then in 1914, I married my secretary, Florence Dugdale, and she was lovely as well, and she was also 39 years younger than me. Oh, she was quite lovely.
Props.
Anyways, thank you, my man. Thank you. Anyway, I was married to her until my death. I died the 11th of January in 1928 from pleurisy, chest pains. It's quite terrible and awful, and you cough, and it's quite horrible, really. But it's quite funny. They had a big debate over how to bury me because obviously I should be married with my lovely Emma. I mean, I still lamented over her even after I was married to Florence. I was still sad about my wife's death. So they ended up marrying my heart with her, and they buried my body in the Poets' Corner at Westminster Abbey, which is quite prestigious, and I'm quite a good poet. Anyways, after I died, the executors of my estate actually burned all of my letters and notebooks, but 12 things were recovered, so they actually have the documents that I used in all my work. So that's my life and death.
Fascinating stuff.
Yes.
Well, how about you, Mr. Thomas?
Well, after I left the grammar school, the ripe young age of 16, I went on to become a reporter, a journalist at the South Wales Daily paper. There, I stayed for about 18 months on staff, going and doing journalistic things, when I eventually left under pressure because it just became a bit much for me. After that, I went on to London, and during those times, I met my wife, Caitlin McNamara. Now,
Caitlin is a lovely name.
I know. And my wife, I met her dancing one day, and within 10 minutes we went to the sack.
Oh, my man.
Yes. Don't talk about my Caitlin that way.
Miss
You
Plath.
shouldn't treat her like that.
Miss
Ben.
Plath.
Well, try to treat her the best I could.
Ask
Anyway,
me if you don't want my opinion.
If you would, please.
Anyways, continue, young man. I
anyway.
like this story.
Anyway, during those times, I went on to write my poetry as well, and I sent off letters to various literary, bigwigs almost, asking them for financial support so I could continue my work. That didn't really work out, so I went on to do work with the BBC as well, using my fantastic voice to charm the hearts of many. Eventually, World War II came, and thankfully I was not conscripted because I was a grade 3 person. My lungs and such things had problems, and I would cough up blood on a very, very common basis. Yeah.
I know that feel, bro.
Oh, well, see, we can relate. Bros, right now. Yeah. He's an influence on me. Anyway, I went on, and then one day I met Pamela. Caitlin is nice and all, but Pamela. So I had an affair. That was nice. Then, time went on. My father died. That was a major event in my life. Just humongous, really. It influenced me to write what some consider my greatest work. And then eventually, when I was doing my New York tours, actually, after I'd become such a sensation in the United Kingdom, I went on to do a tour in America using my voice to raise money to pursue my other aspirations. I eventually succumbed to pressures in the brain, pneumonia, and a fatty liver, and that eventually caused my demise.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Alright, since we're in the company of such great poets, how about you tell us a little bit about your work? About you, Mr. Thomas.
Well, where do I begin? I guess I'll start with what some may call my best poem. It's called Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. It's about the death of my father and how you just shouldn't, the end of your life doesn't have to be a sputtering candle, but it can be a roaring flame. Another poem I had was And Death Shall Have No Dominion. That's actually a quote from the Bible, believe it or not. In it, I talk about the eternal spirit of humanity as as people. Like, we live on even when we die. I take death and I talk about it, but not in some way other poets or authors do. I did a lot of audio work for the BBC as well. That was a major part of my work to give me support financially. I had one major one. It was called A Child's Christmas in Wales. That one was very, very well received by the masses in the United Kingdom. Very popular there. I became very popular there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear some of your work. How about you, Mr. Hardy?
Alright, well, my writing, it's quite a roller coaster. I originally started writing novels, and I wrote around 20 novels, and they were not well received. I don't know, the public just didn't like me, I was too controversial, and just the peak of that was Jude the Obscure. You may have heard of it. Well, some people called it Jude the Obscene, because, I mean, I wrote about a lot of sex, and people just didn't enjoy that, and I don't understand. But anyway, after that, I was so upset that I just quit writing novels. And in 1898, I actually published my first book of poetry. It was a collection of poems from over 30 years called Wessex Poems, set in my semi-fictional Wessex. Anyways, I continued writing poetry and stopped writing novels altogether. And I loved it a lot. Poetry is my first love. And then a lot of my poetry was based on my other love, Emma. Her death greatly influenced my poetry, and so did my lower social class as a young child. I wrote a lot about criticizing society and how I felt I'd been almost wronged for my lower status. So you can see a lot of themes of death and sadness, but that's just me.
Interesting stuff. How about you?
Well, I guess we'd have to start off at the beginning, since I started off so young. Right out of high school, actually. It was in Christian Science Monitor. I don't know if you've heard about it, the magazine. But I actually had my first publication in there, in that little magazine. And my first book of collected poetry was called Colossus. And I did a few other poems, like Dear Island and Mad Girl's Love Song and Tulips. And of course, Daddy. But I also actually wrote a semi-autobiography, but I put it under a false name, Victoria Lucas. I'm sure you've seen the book, The Bell Jar. I mean, if you haven't read it completely, I'm sure you've at least heard about it. It's a lot like my life, actually. Esther, the main character, she struggles all through her life trying to find happiness and actually attempts suicide like I did. And she, at the end of the book, she thinks she's better, but it just comes back, and it's just a non-ending battle with happiness and trying to kill herself, and that's what it was. But I think Daddy was one of my biggest poems.
Welcome back to the after party. Concluding that, we're going to go to some film of our three guests reciting some of their work for us. So, that should be cool.
I'll be reciting my poem called Daddy. You do not do anymore, black sheep, in which I have lived like a foot for 30 years, poor and white, barely daring to breathe or a chew. Daddy, I have had to kill you. You died before I had time. Marble heavy, a bag full of God, ghastly statue with one gray toe, big as a Frisco seal. And a head in the freakish Atlantic, where it pours bean green over blue, and the waters off beautiful Nauset. I used to pray to recover you. I do. In the German tongue, in the Polish town, scraped flat by the roller, of wars, but the name of the town is common, my Polak friend. Says there are a dozen or two, so I never could tell where you put your foot, your root. I never could talk to you, the tongue stuck in my jaw. It stuck in a barbed wire snare. Ich, ich. I couldn't hardly speak. I thought every German was ye, and the language obscene. An engine, chuffing me off like a Jew to Dachau, Auschwitz, Belzine. I began to talk like a Jew. I think I may well be a Jew. The snows of the Tyrol, the clear beer of the Vienna, are not very pure or true. With my gypsy ancestress and my weird luck and my Turok pack, I may be a bit of a Jew. I have always been sacred to you, with your Luftwaffe, your goobly-goo, and your neat mustache, and your Aryan eye, bright blue. Panzerman, oh you. Not God, but by a swastika. So black no sky could squeak through. Every woman adores a fascist. The foot in the face, the brute heart of a brute like you. You stand at the blackboard, Daddy, in the picture I have of you. A cleft in your chin instead of your foot, but no less a devil for that. No, not. Any less than the black man who bit my pretty red heart in two. I was 10 when they buried you. At 20, I tried to die and get back to you. I thought even the bones would do, but they put me out of the sack and they struck me together with glue. And then I knew what to do. I made a model out of you, a man in black with a Mein Kampf look, and a love of the rack and the shrew. And I said, I do. So, Daddy, I'm finally through. The black telephone's off at the root. The voices just can't worm through. If I've killed one man, I've killed two. The vampire who said he was you and drank my blood for a year. 7 years, if you want to know. Daddy, you can lie back now. There's a stake in my heart. There's a stake in your fat black heart, and the villagers never liked you. They are dancing and stamping on you. They always knew it was you. Daddy, you bastard, I'm through.
Kick your shoes off and relax, because I'm about to read my poem, The Man He Killed. Had he and I but met by some old ancient inn, we should have sat us down to wet right many an African. But, raged as infantry, and staring face to face, I shot him as he hit me, and killed him in his place. I shot him dead because he was my foe. Just so, my foe, of course he was. That's clear enough. Although, he thought he'd list, perhaps, offhand like, just as I, was out of work, had sold his traps, no other reason why. Yes, quaint and curious war is. You shoot a fellow down. You treat if met where any bar is, or help to half a crown.
Oh, hi. I've got a quick recital to give you guys of my most popular poem. Do not go gentle into that good night. Bringing it up on this handy-dandy device that was given to me when I came on to this afterlife. Really nice place here, actually. Well, here we go. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage against the dying of the light. The wise men at the end know dark is right, because their words have forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it's on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage against the dying of the light.
And you, my father, there on that sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Well, it seems that's all the time we've got. Thanks for watching, and come down next week when we've got Michael Jackson and Billy Mays in to chat with us. Thanks for watching.
What is that you say, Thomas, my dear?
Oh, memory, where is now my youth? Who used to say that life was truth? No! That was so good.
Brooke, don't look at the camera.
And don't do this to her hand because I think that's where she lost it.
Okay, so how about you, Mr. Hardy?
You know what? I gotta say something. Mr. Hardy. What was that beat?